What's going on, guys? I'm going to open up some dialogue with you here. What do you think? You technicians out there, DIY guys, backyard guys, whatever you want to call yourself, you do repairs for money or even on your own vehicles. When you do brakes, do you anti-seize the hub flange face where the rotor goes over? You guys hit it with a wire wheel. Do you use regular anti-seize or do you use the copper anti-seize on that area? Um, when you do brakes and you're doing the pads, you're changing the pads out, do you reuse the OE hardware that's on there because you don't like the aftermarket stuff? Do you just take like a copper brush or something like that and clean out the slides and just leave them mounted to the caliper bracket itself and try to fit the brake pads in there? Or do you actually pull the hardware off, clean it front and back, and then clean the rust jacking back behind it, clean off the contact point, put a little grease on the metal before you put the clip back down to kind of create a moisture barrier? Or do you just put the clip back on dry and don't put anything down there? Or do you use a new kit, clean the contact points where the clips go, and grease up the ears of the pad before you slide the pads in? Do you find yourself having to take the brake pad over to the wire wheel and wheel the end of it down some, the ears, and to get it to fit a little better? Do you find that 99.9% of the time when you have to put that brake pad in there and it won't quite fit, but everything else is right, and you got to go to the wire wheel, that you didn't clean the rust jacking off the back of the bracket enough, and that's why it won't fit? Or do you find that it's just like more cheap pads, just cheap pads where they just slap gobs of paint on the lining, and that's why it won't fit? I tell you what I do, but just wondering what you guys do. I try to wipe off around the rubber boot and stuff the best that I can, and I will pull the caliper bracket off and clean the contact points where it actually goes through the mounting flange area. I will pull the bracket assembly off, and I'll take a file or my wizard wheel, and I'll clean all of it off all the way down into the back of the groove until it's nice and shiny, flush, like brand new looking. I do like to take a thin layer of grease and put it on the metal before I snap the clips in. Kind of create a little bit of a moisture barrier, but that's just me. On the pads themselves, if they fit real nice into the clips and there's no resistance there, I will not put grease on the ears. And if it's a name brand pad, a higher quality pad, I won't even put like a thin film on the outside where the caliper kind of comes around and grabs it, or where the piston touches. I won't put anything there. I'll just put it all on dry, because my theory is it comes from the factory dry. I grease up the slide pins and clean the slide pins and stuff on every single one that I touch, for the most part. But if I know that the rubber boots that go on the slide pins, they look shoddy and they're cracked and they're dry, and I know if I go to pull those pins out, I'm probably going to rip them. If I can get them to move real nice and easy and they're not froze up, I will not take them out to grease them, because I cannot get another set of rubber sleeves that they slide back and forth in, so I won't touch them. But if I know I have them in stock or they look really good quality and I can reuse them, I will pull everything apart. I'll grease the pins, I'll grease the bore, I'll make sure all that's clean. I will clean up the hub flange a little bit. I do like a little anti-seize. That's like one of the only places I use anti-seize, is where the flange makes contact with the rotor face, or some AMSOIL HD metal protectant spray. I'll just spritz a little on that and put it on there, because the AMSOIL HD spray, the metal protectant spray, dries. When it cures dry, and it still protects the metal, so it doesn't have that wet, slinging type sensation going on. It's a dry fit, dry finish. You can rub your hand across it. You won't get the material on your hand. It's really nice. It's a very, very nice product for stuff like that. I find that a lot of what people do with brakes is kind of unnecessary. They have a lot of hocus pocus of their own methods of doing things, and it's like, dude, why don't you just do the brakes? Just get it over with. Just do it. So Then they'll gob, grease on the back of the pad, and they'll gob grease on the ears, and they'll gob grease on front and on the back, and they'll even use anti-seize on their brakes, which is a freaking disaster. But I find the only time I really got to grease the outside of the pads where it makes contact with the caliper if it's a cheap set of pads that's going to make grunting noises. And when it's a grunting noise, you'll hit the brake, and the outside of the caliper will, because it's a cheap, nasty material. It's a pretty decent material, and it's got a quietening plate on the outside. You won't hear none of that stuff. It'll actually shift back and forth with the actual caliper itself, and it won't make any noise. I don't know, just how do you guys do brakes? I know how I do brakes. I keep it very basic, very simple, and I don't slap a bunch of stuff all over the freaking thing. I just treat the face of the hub that the rotor is going on. I will just a little thin film of grease, right? Just almost where it's not even there. Just enough moisture on my hand to get that, slip my clips down in there, and then if I can, I'll put the brakes on dry. I won't do anything on the outside of the pad unless it's a cheap one, and I won't do anything to the ears unless it's a cheap one. And then I will. And then I won't touch the slides if the rubber itself is still in contact, but it looks like it's falling apart. I will not touch them. As long as they're still moving, because I'm not going to crack them open and then have to charge the customer another, $8 or $10 for a kit, and they don't want to pay for it, or if I can't get them, that's another reason why I won't. Just wanted to leave this open to you guys and figure out, how do you guys do brakes? I guess most of this can be really left open to interpretation, as long as you're not really doing anything that's going to cause any issues. Then who really cares how you do it, as long as it's done and it's safe. Everybody has their own way of doing things, so I'm kind of in the ballpark of not really shaming people for doing anything a specific way, as long as you're not using anti-seize. I hate anti-seize, and if you use anti-seize, I hate you too. I'm just kidding. I really don't like anti-seize unless it is an absolute necessary procedure. Especially people that put anti-seize on lug studs for tires. What freaking... It says right on the bottle, don't put the anti-seize on the lug studs. It's ridiculous. I hate those people. I don't, but you know what I mean. Let's just let bygones be bygones in the grand scheme of things, but there are some things I think are unnecessary, but I'm not going to pick at people for doing them, and I'm just kind of leave this open to you. How do you guys do brakes? Because that's how I do them. As always, thank you guys for helping me increase the viewership here lately, get the numbers back up. You guys have really been helping me climb the numbers out of nowhere. The subscribers are going up on the channel. The view duration is going up on the channel. I think a lot of it helps that you guys are seeing me work on different stuff, and it's not something about oil every single time. Eventually I'm going to have to talk about these brake lines on these Fusions and MKZs and everything else that have just been getting out of control with Ford, and now there's this national bulletin or whatever awareness that all these vehicles are going to be called in for brake lines, so I'm going to have to talk about that. But I appreciate you guys helping me and being there for me and stuff, and really bringing the channel back up. Lately, you've really been doing a great job supporting me, and the new people, a lot of new faces and stuff like that. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you guys. You guys are wonderful. It's only because of you that I'm able to do this, and your support and some of your guidance and stuff, and even to the trolls. I thank you for leaving your comments and stuff as well, but I don't thank you for making my life more hectic. God. I thank you guys. Be blessed. Have a great day. I appreciate you. I love you all.